Do you feel the pressure to grow your business, but doing so feels a bit like drowning? Welcome to Slow Growth Business, the show for business owners and leaders to quiet the noise and lead your business to success, one day at a time, slow and steady. If you feel your business is running you and you're ready to run it, you've come to the right place. Now, here are your hosts, business coaches Jimmy DeGroat and me, Kyle Bullock.
Hey folks, welcome to the podcast where we help you fix your business and all kinds of other things. What are we talking about today, Kyle?
Okay, so we kind of been doing a series on creating an atmosphere of management or a system of management. If you haven't had one before, we've talked about things like the values and the perspective that you have to become a manager, some of the practical nitty-gritty, the things that you got to just do that are tough and difficult, how to create systems. Here's what I have for you today. It's all about personnel. It's about people management skills. And you're the guy to ask about that.
All right.
I want you to imagine you are the owner of your store. You're the owner of a jewelry store, or and you're trying to lead your people, or you have somebody who you have appointed as a manager, as a leader. You're the manager leader, and you're in charge of the employees and the people and the administrative tutelage. Okay? I want your advice and your direction.
That's easy to imagine, by the way. I've done it.
You've done it, right? I want you to give me some direction. What is a good system approach, a systematic approach to training these people? And I really want to know, how often should I be doing it? Here's something we get. How often should we be doing like one-on-ones with people? Give me a system, right? Because so many times it's a bit by the seat of the pants, or, we lean over in a small business across from our desk and be like, hey, how are things going over there? Or we're just yakking every day. And we feel like that's kind of doing it, but maybe we feel like we're also missing the training approach. And I can't think of anybody who understands the value of training quite like the founder of Train Retail to answer this one. So give me some guidance, sir.
Well, it's a lot of it is what you want. What do you want out of your business? Do you want to be the magic, the end all, the be all, the I got to be there, make those decisions, answer those questions? Maybe you like that. Okay. Maybe you like that. And maybe you started your business that way, where you were the magic sauce in the business. And gosh darn it, I just don't like the way it's run if I'm not here. Okay. If you like that, then fine. Then you're limited to your abilities, right? But if you want to have some semblance of a life.
Say that again real quick, because I don't want to glaze over that. You're limited by your abilities.
You're limited to your abilities. You're limited to your time. You're limited to the glass ceiling. Who talked about the glass ceiling, Kyle? Who was that? The glass ceiling. You hit that glass ceiling of your abilities. But that's fine. If you're a mom and pop store and you want to do that, and someday you want to just close the doors after a GOB, going out of business sale, and go and retire and play golf, that's wonderful. But if you want any semblance of scalability, meaning you can walk away from the store for a week or maybe even a month at a time, heaven forbid. If you want any type of scalability where that business can operate fantastical without you there, then my goodness, then you need to have a programmed, consistent training approach. And I don't want this to sound like an ad, but it's got to be constantly engaging the team in conversation about what's going on in your store on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't have to be every day, but it should be at least once a week where we have a purposeful conversation. And then depending upon where your store's at, and what you're doing and what you're good at, what you're bad at, you can focus, obviously, that discussion towards your area of need. But you and I have seen way too much where it's like, I'd like to do that someday, or we send people to a trade show once in a while and they hear a good speaker, and that's pretty much all the training we get.
Okay, so you're saying everybody in a team on the team should gather around once a week, and the manager, the owner, the leader in charge of this is leading that in some way, shape, or form once a week in some
Yeah.
formal setting. So give me some structure to that. What does that mean to you? Like, how much time am I spending doing this? What am I training on, and how do I prep for that? What do I have to do? Because you know what I might do is I might just sit everyone down and say like, well, here's what I'm thinking for the week, and things are looking pretty good, and we
Yeah.
got to sell more.
Yeah.
Give me some structure. Tell me how to do a meeting like that.
Okay. Well, first thing you do is I'm laughing because I love how you're leading me on this. The reality is people don't have time to do that, don't even do that little conversational thing. And so they sign up for our train retail videos and they push play in front of their team once a week. That's fantastic if you do it once a week and you have the conversation afterwards. That's exactly why we made those videos to let's say be a babysitter, for example. But the thing is, your training should include some operations things. Okay. We got a new payment system here. We got a new credit card terminal. Okay. So these are the things we need to discuss. We got to talk about people's schedules for the week. We got to, I always like doing this in the morning huddle before we start, 10 to 15 minutes before the door opens. We get together. Hey, what's your schedule like today, Kyle? Are you got to go make pizza for needy children or something like that or whether. So Kyle's going to be gone from 11 to 1. Goldsmith says, hey, don't bother me between 2 and 3 o'clock because I'm going to be meeting with a customer. Everybody kind of goes through their schedules. Here's the promotions that we got going on. Here's the email, the social media stuff we sent out. And hey, by the way, Sandy, fantastic job yesterday. You turned a just looker into a beautiful bridal sale. That was fantastic. And you guys, by the way, you're doing great on your social media. Your what's the word I'm looking for? Your reviews. We got 6 5-star reviews yesterday. Man, I'm buying lunch for that today. You guys, awesome. So those types of things. That simple engagement is absolutely huge. So I talked about morning sessions and then the weekly ones. Your weekly ones need to be more serious. They probably should be an hour long and involve sales training, operations training, maybe customer service discussions and marketing.
But I've got veterans who've been here forever. We're really going to go over operations with the guys who've been here forever.
But remember, we got that new credit card processing terminal. We got to do that. And if you got the Edge or whatever software, here's a new update here. We got to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about our store hours coming up and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, things change.
Tell me about one-on-ones or the yearly review. Okay. What do I do there? Is that training?
The yearly review I hate. I don't even do them. We used to do them though. When I started off in 1996, when we were in the store, you know what we'd do? We'd sit down in February with people after January. And the whole discussion was, how much of a raise am I going to get this year?
Yeah.
That was the discussion. There was no reviewing. And who the heck can remember how to review somebody after a year of work?
Can I say this?
So I like your approach. I'm going to lead you into your approach, which is much better.
Well, so. I've always detested it. And I really came to detest it when I was an employee. I've not always been an employer, right? I worked retail. I worked retail not in a company by my family. I've worked jewelry retail in other stores. Yeah. I have worked retail. So I've worked for other people. And
do you ever remember Radio Shack?
Do I remember Radio Shack? Of course.
Yeah. I used to work at a Radio Shack.
Did you really?
When I was in college. Yep.
Rest in peace, Radio Shack. Man, I hated the yearly review because I would look at it like you're going to sit me down and they're going to do the stupid sandwich compliment. Here's a compliment. Here's what you got to work on. Here's a compliment to walk you out the door. And I saw it coming a mile away. And that little middle bit was the only thing I remembered. And what annoyed me about that little bit, that thing you got to work on, was like, you're going to tell me my sales numbers in a category aren't working very well and haven't been for weeks or months. And I'm
And
just now finding out about this.
And here's the clincher. And that's why we're not going to give you this raise.
I mean, we reference Office Space a lot, but guys, that's where this comes from is like, you walk into the room with the guys in the suit and the tie, which, by the way, happened to me in an interview one time. And I swear it was
The
like
Bobs.
the movie. It's like, what is it you do here exactly?
What is it you say you do here?
I hated it. I hated it because I'm thinking to myself as an employee, why didn't you just tell me that the day of? Like
immediately.
And that's problem number one. Problem number two, as an employee, when you tell me this, I'm already coming in with pain and stress about, I know you're going to give me the middle bit of that sandwich. You're going to give me two nice things, but in the middle of it, you're going to criticize me about something.
That's what a review is.
And I hate that. I don't want to do this. Oh, I hate that feeling. I know it's coming. I don't know what it is. And then you're going to tell it to me. And then I'm going to think to myself as I walk back to my desk, who cares about the compliments? How do I fix the problem?
Right.
I have no idea. So you didn't.
It's so not helpful.
You didn't deliver me training. You just told me I screwed up. Good luck. I hated it. As an employee, I loved it in the moment. The day of, if I knew something was off and someone came to me and said, let me help you with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Done.
Yeah. Before the door's even closed, before the customer's even out the door.
Exactly. And so, so I very much favor what we call coach approach. It's constant. It's regular.
On the floor.
It's conversational. And I'm going to admit.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
You're going to admit what?
It should be. What's a coach do? Okay. A coach stands on the sideline during games and in practice and communicates with the player the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever watch a basketball game or a soccer match where the coach is just sitting silently the whole time? I mean, maybe
no, and they don't go up for a hot dog.
No,
and a Coke.
They got things to say, okay, and they're going to say it to the players, right? Sometimes to the ref.
Yeah.
And your employees are the players in the field, and so a good manager taking a coach approach knows that every single day is an opportunity to train somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I really like the way that you suggest doing training, and I'm going to admit publicly on this podcast that I don't do it. I don't do it in the jewelry store that I own. I don't do a weekly formal training. Now, I used to, but I'm removed myself from being in there. To your first point, I didn't want to be the guy there every single day making all those little tiny decisions. So what I ended up doing was delegating the managerial tasks that we would do in those meetings. Like, okay, I'm going to follow up on these customer reviews, or I'm going to follow up on, this procedure or whatever. And I assigned them to people who would be in charge of those things. And those people effectively lead the charge. They lead the meetings on, they have a scheduling meeting. Someone's in charge of scheduling. I don't even know what the schedule is until she has it done. She tells me what it is when it's all said and done. And I'm going, super. I mean, great. She is now effectively leading those meetings. So we've also created systems in the store where during that weekly review where we might go over operations, you might go over sales, right? You used to sit down with my team once a week and also review the sales for the week. Here's what went well. Here's, and I found it to be really, really a useful time for the team. And it really, really developed our culture of teamwork. When we sat down weekly and I would share with them the numbers. Here's the number of sales. This is how we're on target. It was it was closest to real time as we could get, where we all sat down and could hear it together. And they all felt like we were in it together because we're hearing it together.
Yeah.
Now, I don't do that anymore. Right. The reason I don't do it anymore is because, again, I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I do? I created a system where they have their own dashboard that they go through together.
Yeah.
So what the heck is it that I do there in terms of training? To your point, when I go in, I want to go in and intentionally train on the things that aren't being delegated, which has to do with coaching, it's listening, and it's communicating. So I know there are some times in the week when they're all together and I can walk in and I know all the logistics and the operations have been covered. So what's left? It's listening, empowering, and training on things that they haven't done yet. And I'll pull up a bench that I've got in the middle of the shop. I sit down. We just chat. Sometimes maybe just 30 minutes, but that's the touch point.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that example of how we've developed it within our culture, where if you looked on the outset, we're not doing the formal weekly meeting, but they still watch the videos on their own. They still have training things going on their own. And as informal as it looks, it's still structured into our culture that we do something regularly in training.
Yeah. And purposefully. And you know what I love about that? Nobody, I mean, just like especially like even one-on-ones. I'm of the mindset that one-on-ones are kind of going by the wayside a little bit, because one-on-ones should be done on a daily basis as needed. Okay. And what I would use my one-on-ones for is to let people know how they were doing per the month, per their goals for the month and all that type of thing. Maybe we'd go over the last month's numbers and that type of thing. However, I'm one for total transparency. I would put a chart on the wall. Here's how she's doing. Here's how she's doing. Everybody, with the goals type of thing. And the systems that we used enabled everybody to help each other, because we always had a team goal. And if Sue would hit her goal for the month, now she's going to help Sandy. She's going to help Sandy along. So they're going to work together, and a lot of teamwork there. So, I'm a rambler. I forgot my first point, my first idea, but okay, no, it's one-on-ones. I'm throwing out I love your idea of on the spot. I love a one-on-one that doesn't even feel like it's a one-on-one. I love a one-on-one that feels like a conversation. That's me.
And that's what it should be, right? Because it just, if you have that like sheet of paper with the things that they did right, the things they did wrong, and you're just kind of riddling off the checklist. All I can picture is that scene in the movie Office Space with, two guys in a suit and tie, bringing you in that's what it feels like. And maybe that's not your intention, but I would say in most of the cultures I've observed in work, the employees are going to see it that way.
Ick.
It's icky. It's weird. And I don't know anybody who wants to be told that something's going wrong long after the fact.
Yeah. Should I get you another copy of that memo? See, we're doing our TPS reports a little differently now.
Yeah.
I could quote the whole movie by the way.
Because the whole movie is a lesson in passive aggressive work culture. We're over with. Okay, so here's what I'm hearing. Have a regular meeting. You need to cover logistics, operations, sales, and skills. And it needs to be done regularly. And if I am going to do one-on-ones, you're telling me I should do this. Should I have any structure in that at all?
No.
None at all?
No. A one-on-one shouldn't feel like a one-on-one. It should feel like a conversation on the sales floor or in the office or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because anytime you go into that structured, we would have fun with it. We would actually be very relaxed with it. But I've found throughout the years that trying to train other stores to do that, it was like pulling teeth. I can't get them to do it, because to start doing them after you've never done them before, it just felt wrong. Employees hated it. Some people would have tears in their eyes. Like, should I bring my purse? It's like, gosh, no, I just want to talk to you.
I know.
Yeah. So there's no way around that. So just stop it.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but what if last thing I want to kind of cover is, okay, all of this sounds good in a normal business atmosphere, good business atmosphere.
Yeah. I know what you're going to ask.
But what happens when I'm having?
What if you have to?
Oh man, I have an employee tension. It's not like I need to fire anybody, but it's just kind of an uncomfortable thing. Or man, sales just aren't super, and the business ain't doing great.
Mm-hmm.
How do I lead it? How do I train somebody who maybe I have told 100 times how to do something and they just aren't doing it? It's just not working, and the business just ain't going well. How do I train and lead the way you're describing in that kind of a situation?
Well, that's an HR one-on-one. That's a must. You must do that. I mean, if they're just not getting it, you got to have the strike one, strike two, strike three, and you're out kind of thing. But the first meeting is like, hey, listen, we've gone over this now. You've been here 9 months. Okay. And this is, we've addressed this kind of the first week. So something's got to change here. We got to do something different. So, you got to have those 3 meetings, and you legally need to have those 3 meetings, right? Depending upon the state you live in, especially.
And log them with date, time, put them in the
And
employee
log them
folder.
with date, time. Yep. I like to get them to even sign it or initial it that we had the conversation, because like you've always said, if you're firing somebody, they should know it's coming. They should know. They should sit down in the chair and like, I know today's the day, that type of thing. But so that, yeah, in the end, would be when I was done being a manager. Yeah, those are the types of one-on-ones I had to have. I didn't have many of them. So you led me to that question. Is there something more to it than that you were?
Yeah, because I'm thinking of a situation where the work culture and the employees in there, it's just tense. There's just tension and it's uncomfortable, and it's not like we got to sack anybody, but things in the business aren't rosy, and it's tense with the staff.
Yeah.
And I really want to fix this culture. I don't want to have this problem. And you tell me that doing individual one-on-ones just makes people more tense. Well, I got to sit everybody down and train them in a formal setting, and everyone sits down like they're human-sized ice cubes. It's frigid in the room. I mean, what do I do to break that frigidity? Is that a word? Frigidness, coldness with one another, and help get some kind of better culture going on in those meetings?
All right. So I'm going to tell you what I know you and I do. That is an introduction. And we do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that gets a team starting to talk. And that gets the team starting to, be able to voice their opinions, voice their thoughts. I love what you say. It's not a threat isn't a person, or a weakness isn't a person. It's a thing. So don't put a name on it. So using a SWOT analysis is a way to kind of get the ball rolling in that. But whatever you do, and I know it's going to come to this, they have to have buy-in. They have to believe that they're part of the solution, and that they're creatively involved in that. So it's got to be a group thing. So tell me what you're thinking from there.
Yeah,
based on
if we're speaking to managers and to people who are wanting a system of leading, everything you said, I'm gonna add that, as painful as this may sound to some, your employees and your staff are not your friends.
Right.
They aren't your actual family. I've had to change my tune about calling them family. You spend as much time or more with them than your actual family. And so you might develop a kinship or a love or a tenderness or a soft-heartedness towards people, no matter the case. But there is this thing you have to remember. You can be a compassionate servant leader. Use that terminology from John Maxwell. You can be a compassionate servant leader while also understanding they cannot be and are not your friends, cannot be and are not your family, even if they actually are. In real life, you may have them as your friend. In real life, they may actually be your spouse or your family member. You have to remember that your job as an employer or a leader or manager is to make sure that the success of the company continues and is strong.
Yeah.
There are other people who are relying on you for that.
Yep.
So with that,
I've had to that point, I've actually dismissed myself or just not gone to social events that my team has done after hours,
right.
And no good can come from sitting in a bar drinking with a bunch of your employees and something happens.
Right. And look, there is a maybe a fine line between being chummy and having them be your friends,
right?
And being a good boss, and there might be a fine line you have to walk there.
Yeah,
I kind of live with.
I would often pay the tab. I'd say, "Here's my card. Go have fun."
Yeah, I kind of live with the expectation, as you probably did in that instance, where I know that the staff, when I'm not there, is probably going to talk about me. They're going to, good, bad, or ugly. That's
Right,
fine.
right.
There's probably text chains that I'm not a part of.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
that's
okay.
that's human nature, right? Okay, so with that in mind, your job as the manager and leader is to lead the company through success. And if the room is frigid and people are cold, sometimes you have to just call a spade a spade. You
Mhm.
sit everyone down. I think what Jimmy said about the SWOT analysis is amazing if done correctly. There's a way to do it, by the way, but if done correctly, it can be a great lead in. But at some point in those regular meetings, as you build rapport, you're going to have these hurdle moments where you have to hurdle over obstacles as a culture and as a
Yep.
team. And sometimes the leader just has to call out, guys, it's cold in here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, numbers, they kind of suck right now, right? They don't look super good. And I don't always have the answers, but we're going to try things. I know that me presenting this idea is probably not met with your enthusiasm. I have to ask you to try and know that it could fail and be okay with that. Okay? You just call a spade, and you walk out of the room knowing, if I've done my job as a leader in this training situation, I have given them the resources and the vision and the values that are important. That does not mean they will always leave this meeting feeling hoorah, or
Right.
that that they're happy. That is
Right.
not what this
Nope.
is. This is
That's
about
okay.
leading the company's values and mission.
Yeah. Now, would you have that discussion if the chill that you're describing was an obvious two people aren't getting along, or is it, in this case, is it an ambiguous thing? You don't know what it is.
I'm going to start with the ambiguous, and for the
Okay.
sake of another podcast episode, maybe we can talk about when
Yeah,
two
we are
people
kind
are
of
getting
going
along.
along here, aren't we?
Gosh, we could talk about that forever, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And I'll just say this: in my estimation, when you have two heads butting, we got to take a look at the competing interests. Are they sharing values? Is someone, what's someone going through? And there's 4 things I look for that are 4 toxic communication patterns you have to weed out.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast for another day, but you kind of have to start at some point. And even with that, you have to start by saying, what I'm observing ain't pretty. Just going to call it out.
Yep.
Now I want to fix it. I want to get it better. And I want you guys to be the ones to help me do it.
Mm-hmm.
How about we end with
You don't yell at them.
No.
I've seen that before. Berating.
I just adds fuel to the fire.
Everybody feels defeated.
I
love that.
I'll end with this kind of something like more positive, just kind of a chipper note, just to see a team member after a meeting or during a meeting when they give you feedback. Okay, as you structure your team meetings and you're structuring however you're going to do it in your culture, but it has to be structured like Jimmy said. You're talking logistics, you're talking operations. At some point in that process, when a team member gives you feedback with an idea, let that be your drug of choice, man. Because that, to me, is the great indicator that things in this culture are going in the best direction. When someone comes to me as the manager and leader and says, even if they think I'm not going to like it, they go, what about this idea? Ooh, this is actually what I'm seeing, boss. Oh my gosh, you are on track to having a coach approach that will work.
Yeah.
And is exciting.
You're lucky. That's a lucky spot to be in. Yeah.
Big time. Big time.
You can work with that, but you can't work with cold and non-participation, ignoring, that type of thing. You can't work with that.
Yeah. So folks, go out, and if you don't have a system, take what we just said, get something put something together on paper, on a Post-it note, have a structure, and bring everyone together. And if you haven't done it in a while, or you've never done it before, they're probably all going to look at you and go, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And you may have to do that 5 or 6 times with regularity before they go, okay, this is our regular thing.
Yeah.
And as you go through it and you learn how to lead that meeting, it is a skill to learn. You're going to find that it's going to be a place where people truly grow, and your business and your team cannot grow unless you have a system of training in place. And if you need help,
Yep. I got to throw an ad in here because if you need a place to start, our sales training videos and our management training videos on the Train Retail platform, just go to trainretail.com. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little nugget here. Use coupon code FREEMONTH for whatever you sign up for. Free month, all one word, all lowercase. You'll get a free month to just try it out. And then what you do is just write down what you're going to do is write down, I'm going to have a meeting. I'm going to have a sales training meeting every Wednesday at 9 a.m., period. I'm going to write it down, or while we're setting up, and I'm going to push play on this video. And then what Kyle and I do is we give you things to discuss as a team when that 10-minute video is done. Now it's only 10 minutes. So, I mean, it's a great place to start to get the ball rolling for regularity in team discussions. Okay. And then Kyle, you and I have our stethoscopes. Wait, I got them. They're from Amazon. So we start wearing our stethoscopes. And if you need much more than that, we can give you much more than that. And we're your doctors. We can do it. We're working with people right now where they're saying, just do it for us. So we're doing team training for them, inventory, financials, marketing, that type of thing. So we're your coaches and doctors for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. This was good, Jimmy. Thanks for your insights, dude.
Woohoo! Probably the longest one ever.
But you know what? I hope it's fruitful. And for our listeners, thank you everyone who sends us comments about you listening to this. We hope that this time is fruitful. And when we hear from you, we often hear people saying, I'm in my commute, I'm walking, I got you in my ears, I'm listening. We so love that you are taking time to develop your leadership and your strength through this podcast.
Yeah.
And we want to hear from you. You know what? If you're not a client, if you are, we still want to hear from you. Send us an email through trainretail.com. Let us know what you got going on, what's working, what's not. What do you want us to talk about? And we want to hear from you. We're so glad that it is helping you grow your business slow and steady for the long haul. So,
say goodbye, Kyle.
Bye, everybody.
No, you were supposed to say goodbye, Kyle.
Oh, bye, Kyle.
We hope you leave this episode a little better than when you first began. If you'd like more resources to grow your business slow, steady, and consistently, check out our on-demand video catalog at trainretail.com. Or if you have a question or frustration we can help address in your business, write to us about it. We love to help solve big, ugly problems. So hit us up at kyle@trainretail.com or jimmy@trainretail.com. Good luck out there, and we will see you next time.